who's fed up and wants to sell your property portfolio quickly and for the best price? Then watch this video with CEO of Landlord Sales Agency, David Coughlin, and fill out the form in the YouTube description link below for help in selling your property portfolio. Thank you so much for joining us today, David. It's really great to have you on. We're going to talk a little bit about how the current market is doing at the moment, as we know, there's a lot going on, especially with the new Labour government. But if we firstly start with Landlord Sales Agency, so can you just tell us a little bit about what Landlord Sales Agency does and how did it all start?
Okay, so so if I start, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Gabriella. My name's David Coughlin. I'm the CEO, founder of Landlord Sales Agency. How did it all start? Well, it actually goes back about 20 years. I did a lot of business with Mark Alexander back in the day when he used to run the Money Centre. Me and my business partner bought 300 properties as a portfolio back then. And then we started selling properties to landlords. And over the last sort of 20 years, we sold about 4,000 properties to landlords. Okay, so it started a long time ago. I've currently got a portfolio myself of about 75 properties. I did have half of the 300, 150, but like most other landlords over the last 4 years, 5 years since the Section 24 tax has come in, I've been selling some of my properties. So the Landlord Sales Agency is specifically geared up to help portfolio landlords like myself buy and sell properties.
That's really great to hear. And also, it's good to hear that you're a landlord yourself as well. So, I mean, you understand everything that's going on, right? Going on in the market as well with the Labour government. And of course, you were mentioning their Section 24, which I mean it hasn't helped landlords at all. And as we've been saying, the market has been going through a lot of major changes, which have affected thousands of landlords. And we've seen an increase in landlords selling. So is this still the case? And are you actually seeing more landlords coming to you now because of a Labour government?
That's a good question, Gabriella. I think it ebbs and flows depending on what's going on in the market, because a lot of things affect landlords, which I'll mention briefly, and then the big things like interest rates, the potential capital gains tax changes. So what's the financials really affecting people at this moment in time? Do they want to retire? You know, what's the gist? At the moment, there seems to be a kind of sea change, a swell of anxiety and desperation around landlords. Yeah, you know, on the back of Section 24 tax and interest rates increasing, a lot of landlords thought they got on top of that. But then HMRC are looking into incorporations, and now the Labour government's come in, and there's the Renters' Rights Bill that might prevent landlords even evicting tenants if they're not paying rent, if it causes hardship. And then there's the future capital gains tax. So when landlords wake up to news like this, they even including my good self, you start thinking, oh, I've had enough. You get over that initial feeling, and then you start looking at your portfolio and saying, what should I do? So we have a lot of conversations with landlords who are in various situations, highly geared, lowly geared, lots of tenanted properties that are in good condition. Some people have a mixed bag. So they all come to us with a different remit, really, and different solutions required for that. So there are more landlords looking at selling. There's a sentiment in the market now that is that looks like it's gathering pace for landlords to exit. It just depends now what happens with the course of interest rates. What do they do with the Section 24 tax investigations? Where will capital gains tax land? And how will that impact people who own properties in their own name and company name and limited company name? So there's a lot of things on the horizon that maybe some landlords are still waiting to see what happens. But in the meantime, there's a lot of landlords looking at selling, hedging the bets, and getting out the market for sure.
Yeah, I think as you say there, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market at the moment. So there's a lot of landlords that are really worried about what's going on. And just a quick question as well. I mean, the landlords coming to you, would you say they're older landlords that are coming to you wanting to sell up because they're just fed up and want to get out of the market? Or
I think the majority of them are all like a bit grey. I use just for men, so maybe it hides my greyness, Gabriella, a little bit more than others. But yeah, most of our landlords are mostly mid-50s, if not mid-60s, and they built their portfolios since the early 2000s before or whatever. And it's the time for them to think, well, what do I do with this? I want to retire, have more time. It's definitely going to become more time consuming to manage a portfolio if you don't sell. So, the renters' right bills, looking after, issues like damp, that, Section 21 problems and all that. I think it will become a lot more administrative for people to manage, financially tighter. But obviously, you've still got high rents, you've still got property prices increasing as interest rates fall. So people have to weigh all of these things up and they say, well, when I'm heading into retirement, what's best for me? What's best for me is I'm looking at I've got about 75 properties now after selling quite a few over the last 4 years. I'm looking at maybe landing on my best 20 or 30 and keeping them for the long term. I'm not looking at selling them all. And I think that's where a lot of people are. But some people have just decided to sell the whole lot and use their money for less hassle things to make as a wiser investment. Yeah.
exactly. I think at the moment, as we've been saying, there's just so much uncertainty. And like you said, it's all about weighing up the options at the moment, which is very tricky. But I know that a lot of Property 118 landlords have been talking to Landlord Sales Agency about wanting to sell up. So can you give us some examples to our viewers about how you've helped Property 118 landlords?
Yeah, so we did our first article, Gabriella, with Property 118 back in December 2000, so almost 4 years ago
Wow.
now. And the market's changed quite a lot since then, but that was at the beginning of the Section 24 coming in, and interest rates didn't start to rise until much later. But in that whole time, we've had about 1,400 landlords from Property 118 contact us. We completed on about 100. For 100 of those landlords, we've completed sales for them, and they are a mixed bag. So we've had landlords come to us, like a lady called Shauna. She gave us a portfolio in Warrington of 23 properties that she'd looked after really, really well, all owned in a limited company, set up properly, set up nice. We sold the whole portfolio to a fund that wanted to buy that, so we sold the whole lot in one go. And that was the right solution for her. She didn't want any valuations or viewings with the tenants. She didn't want any of the tenants spooked. So we found a solution for Shauna. We got another gentleman called Darren as another example. He's got a portfolio of about 80 properties in Liverpool, and he's also a property developer. So he looks at his rental portfolio as more hassle than it's worth now. It's like, well, I want to focus on property development. Yeah. So, but he doesn't want to sell them all at once. He wants to maximize his gains from the property. So we're helping him sell each property individually. We haven't sold them all. Some of them are a bit more challenging condition with tenants not looking after properties, and lower rents. But we've sold about 80% of what we've listed with him, one by one, to try and get the best price, the best deal for the tenant, and the best deal for the landlord. So landlords generally come to us with a big portfolio of tenanted properties, and they're looking for the best solution, either to sell them in bulk or in chunks, or sell them individually for the best price. And they're a couple of examples recently.
That's really good to hear all the examples there. And particularly, I mean, as we know, every client is different, but it's really great to hear how you help with different clients. And then as well, I suppose some landlords may be thinking, can you guys get a competitive price as well with using Landlord Sales Agency?
Yeah, so I kind of, I've sold about 40 of my own properties in the last few years. And I think it depends on where you're at. Each property has a different solution. I've sold some properties through other auctions like Patterson's because I just wanted to get rid of them. Yeah, the tenants moved out. They needed a refurb. I didn't want to spend the money on the refurb and I wanted them gone. So I used the more traditional online auction Patterson's to sell them. Other properties I knew if I spent 20, 30 grand on a refurb, I'll make 80, 90 grand on value. So I do the refurb, sell them through local agents. And then where we kind of fit in, Gabriella, is somewhere between an estate agent and an auctioneer where we'll try and get the best price by pitching first-time buyers and landlords against each other to get the best price. And then try and do a win-win deal with the tenant, the landlord and the buyer. So if we get a good price, sometimes it might be from an owner occupier and we look to do a deal with the tenant to move out, or we'll get a landlord who will buy and keep the tenant in situ. But landlords doing that in this day and age, you're all looking at trying to getting about 85% market value when you're selling a property with a tenant in situ nowadays. So if you can get an estate agent getting you 95, 100% and an auction getting you 75, 80%, we sit in the Goldilocks bit in the middle, getting around about 85, 90% market value, depending on the condition and the tenant.
Really great to hear about how Landlord Sales Agency can help with that, particularly with the prices. And I liked what you said about the Goldilocks bit, because I think you guys give a really fair price to landlords, which is really, really good. So if you were a landlord watching this and you're thinking, I'm still on the fence whether to use Landlord Sales Agency or not, can you give a pitch to our viewers, David, about why they should use Landlord Sales Agency?
Well, I wouldn't say why they should use us, but I would suggest that they reach out to us because I'm a landlord myself and I've been through everything that every other landlord's gone through personally over the last 20 years and still going through. And in order to get a really good price, you have to resolve all of the issues that estate agents and solicitors really haven't got the skills, the expertise, or the desire or the drive to do it. So I built my business on overcoming those issues for myself and other landlords. So we are a specialist in helping sell landlord tenanted properties for good prices and getting them over the line. But if a landlord's like wanting to just inquire with us, I hold Zooms with my sales team and landlords. So you just get a free half an hour with me, 3 hour with me on a Zoom. Look, Dave, can you tell me what you do with these properties? What do you think? I've had the valuations back from your team. They look okay, but can you tell me how it works? How are you going to solve this particular tenant problem for me? What do you think we could do? This property's got a few little issues with leases or whatever it is. So they can, if they like what they hear when they first reach out to my team, they can always jump on a Zoom with myself, have a good chat, and then decide if it's best for them.
That's a really good pitch there, David. So I hope any landlords that are watching, if you're looking to sell, please contact Landlord Sales Agency. Thank you so much, David, for coming on. Really appreciate it.
You're more than welcome, Gabriella, and good luck everybody out there with the portfolios.